All right, let's get into Virgo energy. So much happening with Virgo. Virgo is the largest zodiac constellation. So, with that being said, it's going to have a lot of star alignments, a lot of different star alignments. So, this is literally just the first part of Virgo. As you can see on the next page, like there's so many star alignments that I could not even fit them in one slide. So, Virgo takes up a lot of space between Leo and Libra. So essentially, anybody that is a tropical Libra or most of the time a tropical Scorpio are typically actually Virgo suns, which is really, really wild. And it's not to say that those people don't have a different Libra placement or a different Scorpio placement, but overall, yeah, a lot of people that think they are, Sun in Libra are actually Sun in Virgo, and the majority of Scorpios are actually also Sun in Virgo. So, Virgo, let's get into it. If you watch the Leo one, you'll already have this information. So if you want to skip over this, that's fine. If this is the first time you're watching, then definitely listen up. All right. So Virgo mythology. A lot of different mythologies, but this is the main mythology here. So Virgo is seen as the star maiden, and this is the goddess Astraea. As she's seen as carrying wheat and is also known as a fertility goddess and the goddess of the harvest. She dwelt upon earth with mankind, but left due to corruption and lawlessness. Like she came down and was like, oh God, you guys are not good. Like humanity is kind of trash. So I'm gonna go. She's the daughter of Astraeus, who is the god of dusk, and the daughter of Eos, the goddess of dawn. So the dusk and dawn had a child, and this is Astraea. All right, so it is prophesied that she will return to bring justice and innocence back to the world. Interesting that we see a female archetype here being correlated with the return of a female versus the return of a male, as we see so often in the major religions, whereas it is prophesies that she will be the one that is returning to bring justice and innocence back to the world. So she, in different depictions, and you'll see this more when we talk about Libra, but she is also seen as holding the scales of Libra, like an object that she's utilizing. So keeping that in mind as well, there is that connection between Virgo and Libra energy. All right, keywords that are associated with this star maiden of Virgo, Astraea: divine justice, innocence, purity, hope, righteousness, moral integrity, truth, and precision. All right, the next myth that we have here is that the goddess Demeter is actually the person that is depicted in the constellation of Virgo. I kind of see this as so like Astraea came down and was like, or incarnated essentially on Earth and was like, okay, you guys are terrible, I'm gonna go. So as she left, then that kind of opened the door for Demeter to take in this energy, because Astraea then was a little bit, not a little bit, was detached from Earth and was like, not my problem, not my circus, not my monkeys, essentially. And Demeter was like, well, they might be mine. Not really, but potentially. So the Demeter is the goddess of the harvest. She's also seen as a nature goddess, the goddess of grain and agriculture. She had a daughter with Zeus, and her daughter's name is Persephone, which you maybe have heard of before. So Demeter is the daughter of Cronus, which is Saturn, and Rhea. So if you look back into mythology, typically those are like the two parents of a lot of people. A lot of the major gods that are still looked at and associated with Greek mythology. Eventually Demeter became a nurse, so very healing energy that she did carry. All right. So her daughter Persephone got kidnapped by Hades, all right? And when that happened, Demeter was obviously very upset, so she decided to punish Earth, and she sent a drought to Earth that almost wiped out all of humanity. The other gods were like, that's not good, like, Demeter, sorry, like, we kind of need to have water here. We kind of can't just live in drought forever. That's not going to work out for us. So a deal was made where during the spring and the summer, Persephone, her daughter, would be reunited with her mom. And during that time, spring and summer, plants grow, right? And then during the fall and winter, Persephone would go back into the underworld with Hades, and the land would be barren or, not fruitful anymore. So that is I mean, maybe where we have seasons from, which is fascinating. So I kind of see that as maybe the Earth tilted even when she did that in order for, like how seasons are determined by the tilt and spin of the Earth. So maybe it knocked things out of alignment a little bit in order for there to be seasons, which, personal theory, who knows. So Virgo mythology, this is also seen as potentially Persephone then herself. So Persephone was the daughter of Demeter and Zeus. She was kidnapped by Hades, as you can see right here in this statue, this fairly famous statue actually, but unfortunately, like, this is literally Hades, the god of the underworld, brother of Poseidon and Zeus, kidnapping, I guess, who would technically be his niece if she's Zeus and Demeter's daughter, to go to the underworld with him and be his queen, I guess, the goddess of the underworld, the queen of the underworld, Hades boo thing. So very tragic, right? Like, that's literally rape, human trafficking, all of that. So Persephone is seen as the goddess of spring. She is a vegetation nature goddess. She's also seen as then queen of the underworld once she switched over to the underworld. Wasn't her choice, was very much forced into that energy. And then she is also seen as an angel of death. And Persephone symbolism comes down to pomegranates, seeds of grain, flowers, and deer. So if you see any of those things, which flowers is very broad, but she's a vegetation goddess, so definitely loves the flowers. All right, so astrological interpretations for somebody with Virgo placements, they could be very pure in energy and nature. This could also be seen as cleanliness, precision, innocent, justice minded, high levels of moral integrity. And this is like the higher vibrations, right? Righteous, hopeful, offers hope and solutions to others, very truthful, into nature. People with Virgo placements may grow their own food or garden or flowers of some sort. They may be very into the medical profession or being a healer of some sort. They might have, different herbs that they utilize in order to heal themselves and others. They, though, like, may be actually pretty corrupted by other people and change personalities throughout their life. Kind of just like away from their regular nature based on traumatic things that may happen to them. And Virgos might give very harsh punishment for wrongdoing. They also may fall in love with abusive people. Again, that might be like a survival thing or a situational thing, but that is energy associated with this archetype. All right, yeah, I guess major, why not? The first constellation we see impacting Virgo is going to be Ursa Major. As you can see, Ursa Major is a really large constellation. It aligns with Cancer, Leo, and then also Virgo here, up to about 30 degrees in Virgo. The tail, if you follow the tail down, again, remember, we're not like going straight down to the sun's ecliptic. We're following these lines here. So you'd follow it down, down, down to around 30 degrees of Virgo. All right, so Ursa Major. We also talked about this constellation when we talked about Cancer and Leo. So again, this might be repeat information for some of you, but new information if you're just watching the Virgo one. All right, the first myth associated with Ursa Major is the Great Bear or the Larger Bear. So in this myth, there was a nymph whose name was Callisto, who was a priestess of the goddess Artemis. If you remember back, Artemis was Apollo's sister, the one who killed Orion. And feel free to click on Orion to read that story to understand that dynamic a little bit better as well, if you so wish. All right, part of Callisto's vow to Artemis was that she remain a virgin and took a vow of chastity, which is very common. If somebody is a high priestess or just a regular priestess of a goddess, they will often abstain from all sexual activity to make sure their energy is completely their own, and so they only feed into that deity. All right, so Zeus saw Callisto and fell in love with her, as Zeus does. That's like kind of Zeus's vibe at this point. And they had a child whose name was Arcus. And nobody knows if Callisto wanted to have this baby with him, if it was like a rape baby. Nobody really knows. Likely though, I would imagine it wasn't like Callisto's first choice to have a baby with Zeus. It just kind of, that was the outcome here, unfortunately. So Artemis found, who was the goddess that Callisto was supposed to be a priestess of, found out that Callisto was pregnant, and because she was pregnant and disobeyed her, she turned her into a bear. In some other interpretations, it's also seen as Hera, Zeus's wife, turning Callisto into the bear, but go with whatever story makes the most sense to you or that resonates with you the most. It's probably just dependent on different timelines that different people are on. So like one person might be like, yeah, it was definitely Artemis, and the other person might be like, no, it was definitely Hera. That's fine. Different timelines. Enjoy. Who cares, honestly? This is just information, right? Like take what resonates, leave what doesn't. Nothing, there's no like definitive truth because everything's stories and archetypes and leftover energy from the past, which is actually the present because time doesn't exist, but whatever. That's for another day. Anyway, all right. So Callisto lives as a bear for 15 years. And then one day her son Arcus was in the forest and just, minding his business in the forest, and he came upon a bear. Okay, obviously he's like, oh shit, it's a bear. And realistically, this bear was actually his mom, Callisto, but how was he supposed to know that? He didn't. So he got scared, and like this bear was like coming toward him because she's like, oh, my son, Arcus, right? Just like prancing toward him, and Arcus was like, oh shit, and tried to kill Callisto with a spear. Zeus, it's like the only good thing Zeus has ever done in his fucking life, sort of good, but he could have just turned her not into a bear. Like that should have been the solution here, but no. So Zeus saw what was about to happen and sent a large gust of wind to carry them both into the heavens, placing Callisto in the sky as Ursa Major, and Arcus became the constellation of Boots, which is associated with Virgo energy, which we'll talk about here in a little bit. All right, very interesting. The second myth here is that the great bear here, Ursa Major, is Adrastea. She was one of the nymphs who raised Zeus as a child. So Zeus's father, Cronus, who is also Saturn, was told by an oracle that one of his children would overthrow him. And because of this prophecy, Cronus would eat every single one of his babies that was born so they didn't have a chance to overthrow him, essentially. Rhea, Zeus's mother, she was like really sick of Zeus eating all of her children, basically, like destroying all of her children. So she tricked she tricked Cronus, and then was able to save Zeus, smuggle him away to Crete, where he was raised by these nymphs. So Astraea was one of these nymphs, and she is seen as Ursa Major, whereas Ida is seen as Ursa Minor, and they nurse Zeus for a year. All right. Amalthea, a goat that nursed Zeus, was placed into the sky as the star Capella, which is in the constellation of Auriga, which you can read about, but that influences Taurus, which is interesting. So I don't know. I don't think that this myth is as interesting as this myth, but everybody go with whatever timeline you're on. Zeus did eventually overthrow Cronus, releasing his siblings from from Cronus's belly, Hades, Poseidon, Demeter, Hera, and Hestia. So if you're like, wait a minute, Zeus's sibling is Demeter, but he had a baby with Demeter named Persephone. Yeah, welcome to Greek mythology. It's not the best. All right. So, yeah, many myths across different cultures. Like this is a very, very old constellation, so there's a lot of different myths that are associated with it. The Romans called this constellation Septentrio, which is meaning the seven plow oxen. Other cultures have seen it as a camel, a shark, a skunk and a sickle, a bushel and canoe. The Chinese have it as the government or the northern measure, and in Hindu, they have the seven sages. So, there's a lot of different interpretations that we can get from this energy of Ursa Major. But overall, these are the astrological interpretations that I've come up with. Again, feel free, please, 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 please feel free to insert your own interpretations based on the mythology or based on channeling or whatever information comes in for you, and let me know. Like, I would love to add more interpretations to this list. Or for example, if you're talking to somebody and they have an alignment here, like, okay, how does Ursa Major interact differently with Virgo energy than it does with Leo energy or with Cancer energy, right? Because it's going to play out a little bit differently based on the base constellation, or the zodiac constellation rather. All right. So Ursa Major astrological interpretations comes down to motherly and being a mother or motherly instincts. It doesn't necessarily mean you have to be a mother yourself, but you may have those instincts. Protecting her children, didn't want to attack her son, thank God, right? But rebellious, protective energy may feel unjustly punished in some way throughout your life or throughout this person's life if you have alignments to this energy. Very nurturing and may end up raising other people's children, whether that's adoption, fostering, taking care of kids within your own family, taking care of other people's kids in general. You never know. That could even be seen as a teacher or somebody dealing with children. All right, the next constellation we have here is Crater. There's only one alignment, so if somebody has 2 degrees Virgo, they will have an alignment with Crater here. Crater is also aligned with Leo, so if you already know this information, feel free to skip this. All right, Crater mythology. So Apollo, remember Artemis's brother Apollo, sent a crow to get water in a cup for a sacrifice. The crow is here, Corvus, and then the cup is here, Crater. All right, the crow got to the water with a cup, or the water he went to go fill up the cup with, and noticed there was a fig tree by the water, but the figs were not ripe yet. So, what the crow do? He waited there for a few days for the figs to ripen. Eh, not a great idea keeping Apollo waiting, right? Like Apollo, he probably had things to do with this water and he sent him there for a reason, but this crow was like, these figs though, and kind of risked everything. So the crow returned with a cup of water and also a water snake. Why the water snake? Because the crow needed something to blame his lateness on and said, oh, this snake, this stupid water snake was blocking the spring and I just couldn't get the water. And Apollo was not a dumb person and or a god, and he was like, you know what? I'm mad now. Like you're lying clearly. So you're going in the sky, the cup's going in the sky, and the snake's going in the sky. So alternate mythology here with the crater archetype is the Holy Grail, the cup that Jesus drank from at the Last Supper. Also, potentially the Holy Grail is Jesus's bloodline. So there might be some really interesting stuff happening with people with crater placements. Who knows? Like beyond just being a cup. And then additional consideration or things to think about. So Apollo is also the same soul as Lucifer. A lot of people feel some type of way about a lot of, different deities and whatever, but that's what it is. And then Lucifer may have ended up harming Jesus's bloodline and or put it into the sky, meaning like taking it off Earth. So you never know. A lot of interesting things there. Okay, crater astrological interpretation. So if somebody has a crater alignment, they might be holding on to something that is meant for a sacrifice. That could be like a child, unfortunately, when a lot of these occult families, an item, and this could potentially signify a family history in the occult, or like, yeah, that's what I mean. So crater is also like holding water, so these people may be able to deal with or handle or control their own emotions pretty well. And I think this is interesting because a lot of crater energy is opposite of Aquarius energy, and Aquarius energy is the water bearer, like pouring out water, whereas crater is holding the water in. These people might come from a royal bloodline. They may be objectified or used as an object at some point in their life or feel like that. And then delays in feeling full emotionally due to others' choices, which can be very challenging, right? All right, the next constellation we have is Hydra, which we actually just talked about without you knowing, kind of. So, Hydra mythology, here's the first one. So, the Hydra mythology is seen as the water or sea or serpent, dragon, snake thing. Nobody really knows. And as you can see, Hydra is really big as well. So, this Hydra also covers Cancer, Leo, and ends in Virgo. So, very, very large constellation here for sure. I don't know why I said 2 to 35. It should definitely be 0 to 35, but oops. All right. So water, sea serpent, dragon, snake. Hydra is the offspring of Typhon and Echinda. Words. So different stories have a different number of heads, but most stories say this snake, serpent, dragon, water thing, had 9 different heads. So Hercules, which we'll talk about later, was sent to kill Hydra as one of his tasks, and every time he cut off one of the heads of Hydra, one of the 9 heads, another head would grow in its place. Okay, crap, right? It's like trying to defeat this thing and cut its head off, another head. It's like, oh shit. All right, eventually he realized that he would need to cauterize the wound so that another head would not grow back. So how you do that is you get something like a piece of metal really, really hot, likely his sword, and then place it, let's say like I'm bleeding right here or something. I could put something hot and metal here and it would burn everything, but it would stop the bleeding, and it's called cauterizing a wound. All right, so that in that way the heads would not grow back. Hydra had one immortal head, and that had Hercules cut off and buried under a very heavy rock, defeating Hydra. All right, another myth here is what we literally just talked about with Corvus and Crater. Apollo sent a crow, Corvus, to get water in a cup for a sacrifice. The crow got to the water. You know the story. Anyway, so the crow returned with the cup of water and also the water snake. And in this story, Hydra is seen as the water snake from the Corvus and Crater story, but alternatively, it's definitely, I mean, honestly, I see it way more as this first one than the second one, but it is worth mentioning. All right. Different timelines, different timelines. So Hydra astrological interpretations, if somebody has alignments with Hydra here in Virgo, they may be generally evil or like ill-intentioned. Not the best energy, honestly. Harmful to others, multiple faces, identities shown to the world, maybe two-faced or not genuine in their words or actions. They might be cursed or have like a very dark family history. Kind of like generational curses type things. It doesn't mean that if you have this energy, you're like a terrible person, but it pretty much means you can be a terrible person. And with great power comes great responsibility. So if you want to like evolve out of this energy, you absolutely can do that. It's just definitely going to take some effort. So, and like, it's kind of interesting because I've done readings before where, you know, people have a Hydra placement and I feel kind of bad, like telling them all these really like harmful things. But do keep in mind, like, not everybody's like you know what I mean? Like, there's some people who are fucking evil and they might need to hear this information so that they know who they are a little bit better because, yeah, like, I mean, we're all capable of it, but some much more than others is kind of what I'm getting at. All right. So poisonous can be seen as being toxic in behaviors as well. These people might block others. They might feel also that they're blamed by others, destructive to self and others, legless, so lacks the ability to move through the world. I wrote properly, but I mainly mean like have to navigate the world in a little bit different of a way, like a snake-like way, right? Which isn't, people fear snakes for reasons, right? And it's not necessarily a good fear. It's like a ugh, like an ick. Yeah, most people, not everybody. Some people love snakes, and that's fine. People can love whatever they want, right? All right, Corvus. We talked about him a little bit already, but let's get into it a little bit more. If somebody has 6, 7, 10, or 11 degrees in Virgo, they have an alignment to Corvus here. So you can kind of see where the alignments hit. Awesome, you get it. Perfect. All right, so Corvus. The earliest accounts of this constellation go back to Babylonian times, actually, where this was a raven. So it's been seen as like a black bird for a very long time. This was associated with Adad, who was a god of rain and storms. Fascinating. Interesting. All right. So, in Greek mythology, Corvus was a raven or a crow. This was Apollo's sacred bird. So, like, he really loved this bird a lot. Apollo instructed the bird to watch over his lover, Coronis. Coronis eventually fell out of love with Apollo, and when Corvus went to inform Apollo, Apollo was so angry that Corvus didn't do something about it. He was like, why didn't you stop her? You know, type thing, that he cursed Corvus by scorching his wings. Crazy move, I think. Like, don't kill the messenger, right? Corvus was just telling Apollo, but Apollo was like, no, I'm mad, so you're getting punished, which is kind of crazy, but whatever. So, wings, Oh yeah, that's right. I forgot about this. Okay, so I'm like, oh, interesting facts and information I wrote down here. So, um, the wings of this bird were originally white and they became black because of Apollo scorching these wings. So if you there are like look up like white crows or white ravens and see what you see because yeah, there are some that do exist and it's very interesting. So I do think that symbolism's pretty fascinating. Apollo sent his twin sister Artemis, good old Artie, to kill Coronis, but before her body was burned, they cut her. Wait, okay, hold on, let me back up here. So Apollo, very upset because Coronis didn't love him anymore. So he sent his sister to kill Coronis, the lady that he was in love with. But before her body was burned, oh, she was pregnant. That's right. Okay, so she was pregnant. And before she was like burned altogether, they cut open her belly to deliver Apollo's child, Asclepius, who is the healer represented in Ophiuchus. What? Like, I don't know. That's a really crazy story, honestly. Like imagine being so mad that somebody fell out of love with you that you send your sister to go kill them, but they're pregnant, so you cut out their baby and then kill them anyway. Oh, dislike. Anyway, Asclepius was sent to the centaur Chiron, who is depicted in Sagittarius, to be raised. We'll talk about that a lot more once we get to once we get to Ophiuchus. But anyway, this another story here is associated with Crater and Hydra. We just talked about this a lot, but you know, recap in case you missed it. Apollo sent a crow to get water in a cup for a sacrifice. That is the crow being Corvus, the cup being Crater. The crow got to the water and noticed a fig tree, but the figs were not ripe yet. So the crow waited a few days for the figs to ripen. The crow returned with a cup of water after a couple days, and also a water snake, who we see represented as Hydra. The crow blamed the water snake and said it was blocking the spring, and that's why he was late. Apollo knew he was lying. Angered, he threw the crow in the sky, the cup in the sky, and the snake into the sky. And essentially, anytime they're like throwing something into the sky, it means they're taking it away from Earth, taking it off of Earth. Heavens and the Earth. So Earth and heavens, you get it. Awesome. All right. So if somebody has Corvus alignments here, they may be disliked or punished for sharing harsh news or hard truths. And I do think that we see this a lot, especially with people with Virgo energy, because Virgos are very knowledgeable. They know so much. And if they're like, sorry, this isn't working how it should, or sorry, like this system sucks, or sorry, this, like other people kind of don't like that sometimes when they're just pointing out all of the really like hard things or the harsh news and the hard truths. But it's a thing. It's definitely a Virgo thing, and it's definitely a Corvus aligned thing too. All right, so maybe it's not a Virgo thing. Maybe it's only the Virgos that are aligned with Corvus. I don't know, but let's find out together. This is again, like, please do research on this. Like, ask people questions. This is all like pretty theoretical. So I'm very curious. The readings I have done, it's been like spot on, but I do want to know from others as well. So throughout time, I think we will have way more answers. All right. If somebody has Corvus alignments, they might undergo some form of physical transformation, changing appearances against their own will, even, which can be maybe seen as like if somebody has like really bad burns or burn marks, or even like surgical scars, or let's see, a limb gets chopped up, you know, like something like that. They may undergo some form of physical transformation, and that might be on purpose too. I'm not saying it's always against their own will. Like it might be on purpose too. That could be like major weight loss or like major weight gain, or those are, I guess, the biggest ones I can think of, or maybe even plastic surgery of some sort. A lot of different ways that that could play out. So friends with or associated with harmful people, like people that just kind of have them fucked up, right? Disobedient, maybe even self-serving at times, very patient. This is also like trickster, lying, deceitful energy, might blame others for their own actions, not being able to take accountability excuse me, take accountability. And then not really the main character, might be somebody's wingman or wingwoman, or feel like that at least. All right. Centaurus constellation, very large constellation, impacts Virgo from 6 degrees all the way to 47 degrees, like, yeah, to the end of it. Because it also impacts Libra here, not quite into Scorpio. So Virgo and Libra will also have Centaurus energy, which is very interesting. A lot of alignments here. So there's going to be a lot of people that have Centaurus energy, which, especially if they have 31 here, they're going to have a ton of alignments. All right. So where is it? Yeah, so it's underneath, south of. I guess it depends where in the world you are, but if you're in the northern hemisphere, it will be south. All right. Centaurus mythology. Centaurs are half man, half horse, as you can see in this picture here. The Babylonians called this constellation the Bison Man, and it was associated with the sun god Utu or Shamash. That is the same soul as the Greek god Helios, who's also, I channeled, what's his face? The guy Midas, the guy that had the golden touch. So I channeled that was the same soul as that guy too, King Midas. All right. This is often seen as sacrificing, or I'm sorry, this constellation is seen as sacrificing an animal, Lupus. So here you can see the centaur killing Lupus, who is a dog. We'll talk about that when we talk about Libra, maybe Virgo. I don't remember. I do think it might have a Virgo alignment, but so if you are a Harry Potter fan, you'll remember Professor Lupin, who was a werewolf. So that is where we get a lot of that mythology, or that story originated from that. J.K. Rowling did not make all that up, but whatever. Okay, I mean, she did, but she didn't, right? She had resources for sure. All right, so seeing sacrificing an animal, Lupus, some associate this constellation with the centaur Chiron, but Chiron is largely more so associated with with Sagittarius, the whole constellation of Sagittarius. So these are kind of like centaur energy as a collective, like a community, rather than just a singular centaur that we see with Chiron. These people, I mean, not people, these centaurs, they're drunkards. They drink a lot. They have a very high sex drive. They can also be seen as like slaves to their sexual desires, very lawless, very wild, and very resourceful, though. They use trees and branches as weapons, kind of like whatever they had available to them. But yeah, they're just kind of out there doing whatever they feel like, realistically. So people that have Centaurus alignments, they might be very lustful people, very high sex drive with very little regulation of it. And we do see, like, they say Virgos are freaks, and it probably is the Virgos that have Centaurus alignments, realistically. These people tend to have drinking problems or alcohol issues. Unfortunately, they're not fond of rules, very much outlaw vibes. They might participate in rituals that involve sacrifice of some sort. They may be into hunting or killing animals, very resourceful, very violent, able to fight and use what they have to fight. That can be with words, that can be with actions, really anything. And then feels at home in nature or a natural environment, which that's a nice one, right? Little chill. End it with a little bit of chill, because mostly there is no chill. So just, nature vibes. Yay. All right. Coma Berenices, I think. Berenices? Berenices? No, I'm not going to Google it right now. Maybe later. Anyway, so this impacts Virgo from 7 to 23 degrees. You can see it sitting right above Virgo here. All right. So the mythology here is that Queen Bernice the second of Egypt's, oh, sorry, this is the Queen Bernice the second of Egypt's lock of hair, okay? And the story here is that she was very much worried for her husband's life, and her husband was going to war. So Queen Bernice, swore to Aphrodite that she would cut off a long lock of her hair. It was very long, very beautiful, very blonde hair, if Aphrodite brought her husband back home safe from war. And so when her husband came home safe. Sure enough, she kept her promise to Aphrodite and she placed a lock of her hair in Aphrodite's temple. The next day, the hair was gone, meaning that Aphrodite was pleased with this offering, and Aphrodite was so pleased with her offering that she placed it into the sky as a constellation. So it must have been a very, very long, beautiful piece of hair. And we see her entire like head here. So I'm not sure if she just cut off a lock or if she decided to do like more of her hair, but either way, we see the entire constellation being hair. All right, so what are astrological interpretations? If somebody has any of these alignments here, which is quite a few, we can look at them and say, okay, this person might have really long, beautiful hair or an ability to grow really long, beautiful hair. They might care very deeply about their spouse or their significant other to the point where like they would sacrifice parts of themselves in order to, you know, have the best for others. So willing to make self-sacrifices for others. Devoted wife or partner in general. These people might work with Aphrodite or they might be from her bloodline or able to work with her really easily, fulfills promises made, and may work with hair. Just, you know, not that hard to make that distinction. So they may work with hair in the hair industry of some sort, which is fascinating. All right, next up we have Crux. So Crux is down here beneath Centaurus. I think this is a very interesting constellation actually. Also found it funny that its brightest star is called Mimosa. I don't know. I mean, I do know mimosas, but I'm just like interesting. Very bright one. So 4 alignments here, 8, 10, 12, or 17 degrees. Virgo will be in alignment with Crux. Crux mythology, a lot of symbolism here mainly, but it's seen as, oopsie, the Southern Cross, or the cross in Latin, crux. Ancient Greeks considered this constellation as part of Centaurus, and it likely became the cross, well, it was likely associated. Damn. One moment. Water, I guess. All right. So, ancient Greeks considered this constellation as part of Centaurus, but that was likely because the cross symbolism wasn't very important yet due to until Christianity popularized the cross symbolism. The stone images of Crux were found in Machu Picchu, an ancient civilization of Brazil. Very interesting. And by stone images, I don't think that they saw like a cross. I think that they saw the stars, right? Like they had created the star alignment there in a stone image. Incans called it Chacana, or the stair. Morai named it Tepunga. Again, I apologize if I'm saying this wrong. The anchor and Australians saw it as the head of an emu. Emu. All right, so Crux astrological interpretations, if somebody has this alignment. Very faithful people, giving up life for something larger than themselves, death or punishment from the government. I mean, it's not funny, like that's a whole thing that happened on the cross, right? Savior complex. These people might be very religious. They may have grown up in a very hyper religious home or had or have currently strict adherence to religious rules and beliefs. Ultimately, the cross is a signifier of death and sacrifice. So the person's life may feel like the person who has alignments here, they might feel like it's outside of their control or like being controlled by others in a way, or again, just like living for others as a sacrificial type energy, which can be very heavy. All right. Cain's oh no. Cain's Venatici, I think. Anyway, star alignments 12 degrees and 19 degrees. So somebody has 12 or 19 degrees in Virgo, it would be aligned with the 2 major stars here in Cain's. Again, like, so Cain's, it would have, you've probably heard of Raising Cane's, right? So again, there's all these interactive, really old stories that we're still seeing played out in modern day that people might not really understand the history of. But anyway, Yeah, I don't know. Oh, so what I was going to say is like, so these are the two major stars in Canes. It doesn't mean that there's not other stars. So if you really wanted to get down into it and be like, okay, well, this star is at 6 degrees or 6 magnitude, I'm going to count it. Great, count it, enjoy. All I have on here, for the most part, there are a few exceptions, but anything that's 5 or lower, because again, the lower the is the brighter. So this 19 degrees at Caroli would be brighter than Chara, okay? Because 2.84 is less than 4.34. So the lower it is, the brighter the star magnitude. All right. Mythology. This is seen as the hunting dogs. The dogs on the leash of Boots or Arcus, which we'll talk about in a minute. But if you remember, Arcus was the son of Callisto, who is the bear or the great bear, or Ursa Major. So the constellation used to be, this constellation, Canes Venatici, used to be the spear shaft with a hook of Boots. So you can kind of see right here, I believe that is what they are referring to. And then down here, you can see like Bernice's hair. Anyway, I just think that's interesting. All right, so but it was mistranslated when switching from Arabic to Latin. So who knows, right? That's the thing about these things. It's like it could be or it might not be, but this is the mythology that we have. So here we are. All right. Al-Kulab was mistaken for Kilab, meaning dog. So might have just meant spear shaft with a hook, but then translators were like, oh, that means dogs. Does it? Well, whatever. So, astrological interpretations. If somebody has these alignments, they might feel restrained or kept on a leash or in somebody else's control. They might be misunderstood, or words interpreted in the wrong ways, literally. They may feel like their life purpose is unclear, not really sure which direction to go in, and they may so herding the sheep, it might feel like they have to like control chaos or other people in a sense, or like, yeah, working in chaotic environments. All right, one second. All right, next up we have Draco. This is a really large constellation, so we're going to talk about Draco a lot. So just a forewarning there. But when it comes to Virgo, these people, so if you have 13 degrees Virgo or 31 degrees Virgo, you will have Draco alignments. All right, Draco. Draco mythology. Accounts of Draco being the dragon constellation go all the way back to the Babylonians, a very, very, very old constellation. The great dragon of the north. All right. In Greek mythology, the dragon laden with hundreds of heads. This was seen as laden, the dragon with hundreds of heads that Hera placed to guard the gardens of Hesperides, which held the golden apples that needed guarding. So pretty important, thing to do is guard this garden. During Hercules's 12 labors, he was told to go get the golden apples and he had to kill Ladon in order to do it. I honestly don't even think he necessarily wanted to kill Ladon, but he had to, which we'll get to once we talk about Hercules. He used the poison. So in order to kill Ladon, he used the poison he got from killing Hydra, if you remember that story, to create poisonous arrows, which killed Ladon so that he could get the apples. In Roman mythology, Draco was one of the giant titans who warred with the Olympian gods for 10 years. Minerva or Athena, Minerva is the Roman version of Athena, who is the Greek version, threw Draco into the sky, where Draco then froze around the North Pole, the great dragon of the North. All right. Draco astrological implications or interpretations. So these people might just take up a lot of space. I kind of love that for them, honestly. Very guardian and protector energy. These people will fight to the death. Like, they're not afraid of death. They don't care. They will fuck you up. And I like kind of love that about them, honestly. They may feel stuck or frozen in one spot or in one mindset. They don't just fight for no reason, they will fight though if they have a just cause to fight, which is good, right? Because with great power comes great responsibility. You wouldn't want dragons out here just harming everyone for no reason. but they may possess, likely do possess, a lot of hidden knowledge. They might be kind of chaotic and very challenging to beat when it comes to battle. Like, it's not going to be an easy time for you if you're trying to go up against a Draconian, honestly. And I mean, there's a lot of like different kinds of incarnations of Draconians. I think like the most popularized one is probably the reptilians. So yeah, that's a thing for sure. But there's also reptilians as far as it goes to, with like snake reptilians. So what kind are you thinking about? You know, the Draco dragon kind, the snake kind, there's other ones too. We'll get to them later, like the serpents kind. I think there's one or two others that could also be considered um reptiles. All right, so Boots constellation. Let's see. And obviously, like, there's other ones too, you know, like Leo, like lion people, and like there's a lot of different incarnations throughout different star systems. So don't just think reptilian and be like, oh my god, because it's not just them. It's like that's just the most popularized one. Um, Anyway, that's maybe for another day, but maybe not. If you're interested in that conversation, we can absolutely have it. But anyway, let's talk about Boots. So Boots is right above Virgo here. Pretty big constellation, actually. It has a very bright star, Arcturus. So you'll often hear of the alien group, the Arcturians, and they live on Arcturus, and that is within the Boots constellation. They're essentially like a higher form, a more advanced form of the gray aliens. All right, so star alignments here 32, 37, 40, 41, 45, 46. So more so on the later degrees of Virgo. All right, Boots mythology. The first one here is the herdsman. He has two hunting dogs on a leash, Canis Venatici. The club in the other hand, Arcus. This is also seen as Arcus, the son of Zeus and Callisto. Again, that is Ursa Major. Arcus almost killed his own mother while she was in the form of a bear, but Zeus stepped in and stopped it by putting them both into the sky. All right. King Lycaon was Callisto's father and Arcus's grandfather, and to harm Zeus, he killed Arcus and tried to feed Zeus his own son. Wait, what? I forgot about this story. Hold on. What happened? Okay. So in this story, alternate story. In this story, Callisto, Ursa Major's dad, King Lyca, you know, Lyson. Um, damn. So he was the one that killed Arcus and tried to feed him to Zeus. That's giving that I don't know if you're a South Park fan, but where Cartman makes the dude eat his own parents, whatever. It's fucked up. So this is a messed up story. I don't like this story. It's giving cannibalism, dislike. So potentially origins of cannibalism. But anyway, Zeus caught, I'm sure it happened way before that actually. But anyway, Zeus caught on to what was happening and turned King Lycaon into a wolf and killed all of his sons with a thunderbolt. So I don't know. I guess the moral of that story is don't kill your grandson and then feed him to his dad. Greek mythology. Yeah, okay. Anyway, so an alternate myth here with this Arcus energy or with this Boots energy is that this was Icarus, who was a grape grower, invited the god Dionysus to come visit him. Dionysus showed him how to make wine. Icarus gave some of the wine to visitors that were passing through, but they had never tried wine before, and they were like, oh, this guy's trying to poison us, and then they killed Icarus for poisoning them. Dionysus, who is the literal god of wine, was very saddened by this. He was like, damn, I just showed him how to do that, and now these guys killed him. So he placed him into the sky. And then one of Icarus's dogs is represented in Canis Minor, which influences Gemini. So if you want to read more about that, I highly recommend it. Very interesting here. All right, so Boots' astrological interpretations, if somebody does have alignments to this energy, they probably have some family issues happening, most likely. That can take any type of form, really. But absent mother, but may not be her fault or her choice, or like your mother may have passed away or something there, may harm mother in some way. So like as a child, like you might harm your mom, mentally or physically. That could be seen as a lot of different things, like yeah, I'm not even gonna go into examples, but grandfather issues or drama or just like a general issues with your existence, unfortunately. Dealing with death or misery may come from a royal bloodline or a wealthy family, might have alcohol addiction issues, as we see with the Dionysus story. Um, may offer people help, but they don't understand the pure intent and take it the wrong way. So there's a lot of really interesting energies that are happening within the Boots constellation. I do recommend you dive into this one a little bit further to gain additional information, because this is quite a large energy here that people are dealing with. All right, next up we have Lupus. If you remember, Lupus is the dog here that I think it's a wolf. We'll have to find out on the next slide. But it is what the centaurs were sacrificing. All right. So this is seen, Lupus is seen as the wolf or the werewolf, the animal that is being sacrificed by the centaurs and Centaurus. The Greeks labeled this as therium or a wild animal. The Romans called it bestia or the beast. The Babylonians have it as the mad dog. All right. It's also seen here, the Babylonians had a lot of different interpretations for this. It was a hybrid, human head and torso, legs of a tail of a lion, associated with the sun god Bison Man. Again, that's like Shamash or Utu. And then large carnivore of some sort, whether that be lion, wolf, or dog. So a lot of evolution of this energy to get it to just be the wolf or the werewolf, because yeah, there's a lot of other ancient, throwbacks that you could easily tap into with this energy too. All right, Lupus astrological interpretations. These people may be sacrificed by somebody for occult purposes. That happens a lot where somebody will sacrifice a family member or somebody they love in order to gain fame, recognition, money, kind of whatever they're seeking, and sacrifice somebody else to do it. And you're probably like, how do you do that? And if you don't know, they don't want to know, and just leave it at that. So yeah, if it's not for you, it's not for you, because people are crazy. Yeah. Anyway, so violence with this energy, rage, they may have family lineage of shapeshifting and or skinwalkers, which is a thing. Whether you're aware of it or not, it's a thing. These people might get really mad or angry easily. And then if we're looking at like werewolf mythology, these people might be extra sensitive to full moon or just general moon energy. All right, and that is Virgo. A lot happening with Virgo energy. Hopefully you've learned something from this, but yeah, a lot of different interpretations that can come from just the extension of Virgo energy or the star alignments with Virgo energy. So next up, we'll talk about Libra, but yeah, cool. Virgo over and out.